I've been blogging about Horizon API since 2016, somewhere around that time, and speaking everywhere and nowhere about this. It's my first time here at the UK VMUG, and actually it's the second time that I have a 45-minute slot, and last time was my first time ever presenting, and I was done after 25, so we might have an early lunch. So you never know what happens there. Let's get the slides out of the way, and let me actually, not this one, I will log on. I'm disconnecting. So the Horizon watermark is actually, except for my own tool, all tools that I will be showing used to be VMware Flinks. Flinks are now not a thing anymore. Actually, the Flink site is not a thing anymore. You can find the Horizon-related Flinks on the tech zone. They are listed there, and every product group has its own place where they store their Flinks. But the watermark tool is built into the agent. What I will show here is I am controlling it using DEM. So essentially it's a registry key where you can put some text on the screen. For example, if you have an external consultant logging into your systems and you want to make sure that what they are doing is that it's visible. Okay, you are in this customer's environment, do not record this, something like that. That's what you could use the watermark for. And let me log in here. And actually, I will use Notepad++ for this, which actually is a published application using app volume, so I hope that it will be launching. I will show you later the size of the VM that I'm using for this, but this is actually Server 2019 with 1 CPU and 1 gig of memory. And with a bit of luck, I can still log in. You see one warning. That's another tool that will come up in a bit. The session Horizon recording agent, we will cover that in a minute. What that does, it records every blast session. So on what you, let me go here. And what you actually see, you see it over the Notepad++. This is a demo watermark for UK VMwareUserGroup. And this will be displayed for that user in a session. If the user itself, in the session itself, makes screenshots, it will not be visible. If they make screenshots from an external tool, it will be visible on there. If you record it, it should also be visible. And this will overlay the entire application. If they have multiple applications, it will be visible for all of them. I have configured this, like I said, using DEM. I imported policies, I just said that you can do whatever you want with it. This is just a demo. Some people use it instead of BG info, for example, so you know which systems they were working on or working from and which user. So that's recorded all the time. So that's the watermark. Pretty simple, built in. There's nothing extra that you need to install. So that's the first one. The second one is the Horizon Logon Monitor. That also used to be a Fling. It is built into the agent now as well, but by default, the Windows service for the Logon Monitor is disabled. Because apparently there have been a few instances where there were some performance issues because of it. So VMware decided by default, we're going to disable it. When you install the agent, it will also be in there. The service will just be stopped. And it creates a local file that you can also save to a file share somewhere, for example, so you can keep them together for analysis of what's happening in those logons. And actually, with a bit of luck, I'm not sure if I can do it from this user. I can use the same. Yes, I should be able. So if you go to Program Data, VMware, there is the VMware Logon Monitor logs, and you actually see several of my logs. There are registry settings, like I said, to write this away to a file share, also how long they will be kept, if they few days, 7 days, whatever you like. Let's look what's actually inside it, and I think this will be a bit small, so let me see if I can zoom here. I guess not. But okay, let me just scroll over it. I will explain what you are seeing. I think it is actually visible. So you see which machine it is, which user it is, and you see all stages of the login process of that user after he hit enter when the logon started. You see which domain controller was used, how long it took to talk to that domain controller, network information, group policy load times. But the most important part of this is actually what you see here in the bottom. You see the group policy client, how long it took to load, terminal services, VMware UEM, which often is something that can be slower. SV service is in there. And it all adds up to the total time for that user, how long it took for that user to log on. If you don't have any other tooling to monitor, okay, how fast is that, or how long is that taking for that user to log on, you can at least enable this for some basic troubleshooting to see what's happening. I've got customers here that were doing file mappings to file shares that didn't exist anymore. So it took them over 4 minutes and they were timing out at that point. They just had no idea, and the users didn't even complain, but it was taking 4, 5, 6 minutes to log on, while it was not doing anything there. So that's a fairly useful thing here. Locally stored, of course, if you have instant clones, you want to have to move to a file share because it will be renewed after that. And now let me, since I have this one open anyway, I will close this one. Do I want to? Yeah, I will go to the recording. So I will close this one. And open the recording agent, the recording server. So the Horizon session recording is a separate agent that you have to install on the VDI machine. It's also a server. By default, there was an issue where it said they had to use 2 streams to record things, while if you had only 1 CPU, it wouldn't like that. But Andrew Morgan, who created this, has fixed that, so it is available now. And for me, this is a standard Windows server, if it loads. Yes, there we go. It can integrate with your Active Directory. So what I've done, those users that I'm using for these demos, they have been added to a Windows group, and by default, those groups will be recorded. What you can also do is run a local script or command line to actually start recording on request. So you don't need to have all sessions recorded by default. The password is recording123 by default for administrator with capital R in case you forget it. I always do. So you see I have 1 recording now. It's actually active. But there should also be in my previous recordings. I will have to go back a bit further. They probably cleaned them up, but let's see if I can actually see this. It's still active. As you saw, I did log out, but the session is still there. It might be logging off. And here you see the options. Okay, the duration 6 minutes. Which machine, which application I used in there. Apparently it removes the ++ from Notepad++. My client name, client IP, how I was connected remotely, when it started, when it stopped, the amount of recording segments, file size for 4.5 megs is not that bad for 6 minutes. And you actually see me logging in. There was preparing Windows. You see the warning that it will be recorded, so it already starts recording before it pulls up the window. And it will continue, and if I can scroll a bit further, you can see that I actually opened that Notepad, that file for the logon monitor. So this is what you can do. Okay, if a user calls, I have this and this issue, well, what do you do? And they try to explain it, but you don't really see what they are doing. You could set up the recording. Okay, I will record a session for you now. You can do what you do, and once you have done it, we can stop that session, and then you can watch it back with help desk or with an expert to see what's actually happening inside that user session. This will help you with validating, okay, what's happened. Another thing, that some companies do is, for example, is again for that external consultant that's hired, they are connecting from the outside world, they get a username, password, but you still want to record, okay, you're external, we still want to know what you are doing, and they just make a recording of it. So that's the recording used for that. You can, I am using a self-signed certificate, it uses that by default, you can replace that what you like. And the last one is actually something, the last tool that you might not have heard about, and I'm going through my time very quickly, so we probably have an early lunch. Something that was added with 22.012, I believe, was the fact that you can integrate app volumes with Horizon. So in the past, if you wanted to publish an application for a user, you had to assign them that application in app volumes, and then they would get that application. And what you now can do is you can configure app volumes inside Horizon, and one of the advantages, and publish the application for users from there, so they don't need to have a separate session. You can just directly publish that app volume. So in the server settings, there is this tab, App Volumes Managers, and there you see I have my App Volumes Manager assigned, created there. This App Volume Manager you assign to an RDS farm, because that's a requirement for it. It will all work with one single RDS farm, and you can directly, instead of, and I'm not sure if I have one extra, I have already published a few. If I add an application pool, I also have the option to add it from App Volumes Manager. And you see same with App Volumes, it will list all links, all shortcuts separately, so you can still add them here. That's why you see them. And you actually see that I have created two Google Chromes. They are each in their own app volume, but I can publish them from the same server. So I can have 2, 3 users. One is using an old version of Chrome or MS Edge or whatever in an app volume to test the new functionality, while you have users on the same server using your normal production version at that moment, without needing to update, and they won't fight with each other. Yes, I will cancel it, and you actually see here, let me zoom out a bit. You see here I have Google Chrome and Google Chrome 2, one is new, one is old. So when I go to my client, I have new here, old there. I will launch new first, and after that I will launch the old one. As I said, this, there we go, yes, it will be recorded. And now I will launch the other one as well. Now I have 2 Chromes. And if I go to About Chrome, that's a thing from Chrome, I believe. Or did my laptop doesn't like me right now? That screen is stuck. I don't have anything there. This is challenging. Because you are stuck on the same screen, and I'm not seeing that at all. There I go again. At least I have my PowerPoint back, so bear with me for a moment. Yeah, well, live demo with the hardware, but it's actually my laptop that's messing up, because it should send an update to the screen, and it's not doing that at all. But yes, that's the curse of a live demo. So while I wait for that, you saw what you can, I will just do it in words. You have 2 Chromes on the same server and the same farm, different version, and you can do that with all kinds of applications. I used Chrome as an example. If you have an in-house application that you want to have a new version deployed, you can also do it like that, put it in a different app volume, and publish it from the same farm. So you can test in your real farm, but just with the older or the newer version that you have. Really, let me see if this does anything for me. Actually, it's still connected there. See if I can get anything back here. I have an image again, so that's good. But let me switch. It's trying to do an update. Let me switch to the 5th tool. That's the Horizon Golden Image Deployment tool. This is a tool that I made the first version earlier this year. And what it will do, if you have already created your golden image, you have your snapshot out. What it will do is allow you to connect to all your Horizon farms, and with a few clicks, you can deploy a new image to that farm, and with one pull-down menu, you can even switch to a desktop pool or an RDS farm in a different pod. So you don't need to switch your admin pages anymore in your browser and then do all 100,000 clicks. You can do that all from the same application. Let me log in here because I should have it open. It won't get any bigger than this, so I will do it from here. The first version that was released earlier in the year was completely PowerShell based. PowerShell 7 requirement, not everyone has PowerShell 7 deployed, so I decided to do a full code rewrite, and I actually changed it to Python, because that's what I also had some experience with, and for the rest, I didn't have any experience programming, so that were the two. For me, Python was, for me, the easiest to switch to. Is the best tool to use it? Maybe, maybe not. It is published as an executable right now. I did not put everything into the single executable because then it takes 10 seconds to load. While now it's around 7,000 files or something when you create an executable from Python. So it is one zip file. When you extract that, that's all those files, but it starts almost immediately. If I know. It's stuck again. Cool, demo gods, I would say. Maybe. So first we put in the connection server of one of the servers. If you have a cloud pod setup, you only need to add one connection server from whichever pod. It will do an auto discover of all pods, so it will get desktop pools from all pods. This machine only has one pod, but the password you can choose to save it or not. It will be saved in the local credential store. If you have only the Python file, which I still have to publish. I just didn't have the time yet. You can also run it from Mac. You might need to have some modules installed. I'm trying to create a Mac package, but apparently that's more challenging than expected. But that is my goal, to also have it available to use from Macs. And on the Mac, it will also use the local credential store, so it doesn't use any XML file, it uses the store that everything uses. I put in my credentials. Now, the test credentials went very quickly, so we know it connected. Yeah, the pod button, I need to fix that. So there are still some bugs in there. In the VDI pools, I have hit the connect button, and now you see I'm connected to my Horizon environment. It also already connected to the RDS farms. What I can do, I have only one instant clones pool. I do have a dedicated pool that I'm actually showing this from, but it will only show the instant clone pools. I have one source VM, but I do have an option to have multiple snapshots on that one. So what I can do, I can, for example, I will just grab a random snapshot here. And you have all the options that you also have in your admin console. Wait for logoff, force logoff. You can resize the VMs. So if you build your golden image with 16 gigs of RAM, 8 cores, because that's just faster, afterwards you can, and that's also an addition since 2209, I believe, you can resize your VM, so you don't need to create a separate snapshot with different memory and CPU sizes and selections. You can do that from usually the admin interface in Horizon, but you can also do that from this tool. And as you see, it reads your current configuration. So you don't need to change it. It will see, okay, it's like this configured, so I will also put it like that by default. You can schedule deployment. So somewhere in the future, I want to have this image deployed. And something that was added last year, I'm not sure how many, is there anyone here that uses a secondary image on the desktop pools? So what it can do is if you have got a new golden image and you don't have a dedicated testing pool, for example, you can also set to have an X percentage of X amount of machines that they have a different image. So some people will get the old one, some people will get the new one, and it can be a percentage or number. I've added both options here. You can also set it to not deploy to machines. So what it then will do is it will prepare the entire image. It will be in ready held state. The replica will be created, parent VM will be created if needed, the template will be created, but it will not push it to any new desktops. Only at the moment where you want, okay, we want to switch now, one push of a button and you can deploy that new golden image. I will deploy it now, but we won't, maybe with a bit of luck at the end of the session we will see it. I've hit the deploy button, and if everything works for me now, I am on this one. Apparently the demo gods are not with me, but then it would start the entire deployment process. And actually, I can check if it is anywhere, because we still have the admin interface. 20 minutes left. Golden image deployment tool, it works for the VDI desktop pools, it works for RDS farms. I am working to use the same framework to allow you to export event logs from Horizon. Because there is the Flink that connects directly to the SQL database. You have the Horizon admin interface that shows the events for the last 2 days with a bit of luck. I have a proof of concept where with one touch of the button, I get all event logs from the last 2 weeks and I export those to Excel. So that's very nifty. It's one button right now, and I need to add way more, so I cannot show it right now, but that's a future version that I'm working on, because I think, yeah, some people have a web interface created in front of the database, but not all database admins like that, so that uses also the REST APIs. This tool was entirely built around Horizon REST APIs to be able, and then I will get the event logs from there. Now let's go to the home lab. Let's actually switch there, because we have 19 minutes left, so I'm already further than my last 45-minute session. Let's, no, not Horizon, I wanted to switch to, did I lose my connection? No. There we go. So the portable lab, it's literally right here. It's a Dell Latitude 5401. It is my old work laptop. It's now almost 4 years old, but I wasn't using it anymore. I still had memory left, and I wanted something that I could take with me. Yeah, you can come by later. So I wanted to be able to easily carry it with me in my backpack. With Eurowings, you don't get don't even get a small suitcase. It's only your personal item that you can bring in that backpack. So I added memory to it. As you see, it's a Core i7. There's one thing that I needed, only one thing that I needed to do in the BIOS to be able to install ESXi, and that was switch from RAID mode to HCI. No idea why Dell puts a laptop with a single disk in RAID mode, but apparently they do, and they do it by default. I've seen it on more. I had to reinstall another laptop that had exactly the same for a colleague, so that was the only thing that I needed to do to install ESXi. So fairly easy. I did install one Fling. That's actually, I'm not using that right now because it's using local storage, one NVMe, 1 terabyte drive. So actually the storage is pretty fast. But I also, when I'm doing upgrades or something, I also wanted to use my NAS for shared storage. So I am using the USB network interface Fling for Realtek USB network interface, so I can use shared storage because that was 2.5 gigs, and I wanted to use everything of those 2.5 gigs. So right now it's using 1 gigahertz at boot, the first 10 to 15 minutes. That's why it was powered on during Joe's session. It's full-blown 100% CPU because it just can't keep up with vCenter using a lot of CPU cycles, connection servers using a lot of CPU cycles. At that moment, you see during boot, you will see that there is quite a bit of resource contention there. But once it's booted, it works pretty fine. Connectivity I have done, it's this box here. I can't pick this up. It's got a built-in power UPS, because it's got a battery and still works. So this is my router for my connectivity. What I can do, it's powered using USB. I can connect my phone to it, so I can use tethering from my phone in case I want to have an internet connection and there's nothing available. I can also use it without an internet connection because I'm not using that now. I do have a TP-Link network switch. I don't always need it, but for now I did, which is also powered using USB. Just uses 5 volts and the laptop doesn't care. So it makes it really nifty. It's got Wi-Fi. I'm connected over Wi-Fi to the router. And when I use it at home, because I do a lot of labbing at home, I got my big Dell servers in there and a couple Supermicros and a huge NAS. But sometimes I just quickly need to do something and I don't need all the noise in my office. So I'm booting this one, and on my Ubiquiti system, I have set up the same Wi-Fi and the same VLAN. So I can just put in one network cable, and I'm doing the same thing as what I'm doing here. What do I have running on this? vCenter, I come from the Horizon side, so connection server, domain controller. I work for ControlUp, so I do have a ControlUp monitor running in here. The recording server, my Windows 10 machine that I was just showing from. That's my management box. And you see I'm consuming just about all memory. 60 gigs out of 64. The vCenter right now, I believe it's at 14 gigs of RAM, and that's if I need more, that's one where I will actually, 14 gigs located, 3.3 used. I can remove some more memory there if I need. I believe you can go to 8 gigs. Might still keep working. I know people who run it with 6 gigs of RAM vCenter, but then things will start falling over at some point. But I can still make that slower or lower. And as you see, I have 2 instant clones here, and they really have 1 CPU and 1 gig of RAM. Don't expect performance, but you can log in, and the session can start, and you can show something. That's about it. And the same, this is that one single farm machine that I was showing those F volumes from. 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory. It works, it's portable. Can you run NSX on it? Then you'll probably need 3 or 4. But the basics you can use from it, from default testing things, Horizon REST APIs, I test a lot with them. I use this more often than my other box because it's just some simple things that I need to run. What else? Yeah, it runs. Like I said, it has built-in an interrupt power supply, built-in KVM. So in the past, when I was at Dutch VMUG, there were also people showing their lab or their portable lab, and it was 3 Intel NUCs in a suitcase. But then they also had to carry with them a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse just to control them. Well, I think on laptop these days, it's very easy to use them. This one has the advantage that it has a built-in Intel NIC. So that's if you are going to pick out a laptop for it, look for that. There are also plenty of laptops where they use Realtek or some other funky chipsets, and a Realtek doesn't work except for the USB versions. A Realtek card you cannot get working on an ESXi. So try to look at what kind of hardware is in there. Is it an Intel NIC? Is it Realtek? If you have Realtek, you might need to work with the USB plugs. This luckily was an Intel one, so I could, by default, I could already install it. Just basic ESXi, just the ISO that I downloaded from VMware, and I could install it. Let me actually see if that. I don't think it started deploying at some point. I can do a refresh, but I doubt, deployment didn't start, so that was demo gutsy. It's not responding very well. That's also the challenge with running a demo from a portable lab. Sometimes things break. But I think this is, for the last 7 years or something, that I've been blogging. I think the portable lab is cool, but this application that I created, I think is very cool because I think a lot of Horizon admins have no idea about fully automated process, especially with a small environment. They still go to the admin interface, do every click manually. I think this will help people out a lot. And with that, I have 11 minutes left. I've gone further than my last 45-minute session, so I think it's time for lunch. Unless there are questions. No? Thank you.